Roll call, please.
Mr. Beggs.
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. McCormick.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker is excused. Approval of the minutes of June 26, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Moved by Beggs, second by Hardy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would there be any changes to this morning's agenda?
Can we add elevator discussion, the county building elevator?
Want to do that right after the construction board?
That would be great.
We will do that, the elevator discussion. Would there be any other additions to this morning's agenda? Hearing none, we'll accept the agenda as modified to include the elevator discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Would there be any public comment?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
No? Did I say no?
Yes, it's,
All right.
yeah.
I'm Scott Stovall. I live at 5795 West Shelby Road in Shelby. And I own and operate Stovall Construction at 308 South State Street in Shelby. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about some changes that have transpired in our county building department with the inspection schedule. So for today, I just wanted to give you guys a little information, a little background. So in the last 24 months, we've constructed 44 homes at Shelby Acres, which is a housing development that we're constructing right in the village of Shelby. So we've had the ability to schedule inspections ahead in the past. This has recently changed, which has caused our business an enormous headache. And I want to, some of you know building, and I've worked for some of you. So a typical house has 3 plumbing inspections, 3 electrical inspections, 3 heating inspections, and 3 building inspections, new home construction, okay? So that's 12 inspections per home that's required to be able to get that house finished with a certificate of occupancy. So 12 inspections per house. So I'm 44 houses in, so that's 528 inspections to get 44 houses done. So to be able to do that, to be able to hold to a schedule, hire subcontractors, and complete work on a timely manner, I have to have the ability to schedule inspections well in advance. I have contractors traveling, pouring foundations and concrete, and weather is a huge factor, right? So I have to have underground plumbing inspected before I can pour a basement floor, and there's this long line of things that have to be done in a certain order for us to be able to do our job. So my ask today is that you reconsider allowing inspections to be scheduled in advance, because what's happening is this is costing us time, right? So if I can't schedule footing inspections on August 14th and August 29th, that's when the concrete contractor's coming. I have to have those footing inspections those particular dates. If I don't get them on those particular dates, I lose the ability to pour that foundation. So inspections are a very delicate thing in a small area, especially when inspections are Tuesday, Thursdays, Tuesday, Wednesday heating, and only Thursdays for plumbing. So for us to be able to own, operate, and have a successful business and pull projects across the finish line on time and in budget, we have to be able to schedule ahead. And the farther out I can schedule them, the better it is for the building department, because then they know what to expect. They can see what's on the agenda for next Tuesday, next Thursday, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. It gives them an idea of what they need to do to be able to help us. If the county wanted to do something to help us, they would have these guys work more than 1 day a week. Plumbing is killing us. I trying to get, and then being told that I can't get a final inspection until the following week because someone's on vacation and no one's covering, or it makes our job very, very, very difficult, especially when it comes to scheduling. And trying to hold our subcontractors accountable, right? When they can't get inspections, I'm pushing them hard, trying to get done on time, get this project done. Where are you at? Well, if they can't get the final inspection, we can't. Or they can't get that rough fit inspection, we can't. So that's my ask for today. 528 inspections alone at Shelby Acres in the last 24 months. We're starting phase 3 now. I have 13 houses built in phase 3. We have 3 foundations poured. I need the ability to be able to schedule in advance to be able to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Raffaelli.
Richard Raffaelli, Shelby Township Supervisor at 975 South 96th Avenue in Shelby. So I'll come from a different perspective. So I am struggling with why the county commissioners wouldn't make a change, a dramatic change that affects growth in our county without any one official complaint. So I've spent time digging into this. Tracy, Mrs. Bayard has confirmed that there's been no official complaints. Yet the county commission took it upon themselves to make a drastic change to the way we schedule building permits. That is an example of big market government getting in the way of progress in the community. And I'm to be frank, I'm disgusted that you would make that change. And by the way, anyone who runs a business knows if you have a drastic change in your process, that you would go to the department and ask them for feedback, the people that work it every day. But we didn't do that because we know better, right? It's big government, so I'm being facetious. 528 inspections, not one was late. The only ones that were missed, either inclement weather, Scott can confirm that, or our subcontractors weren't ready. Is that fair to say? Very fair. Statistically, the building department has the largest, is the group that pays for the most inspections. Statistically, the department is running at 100%. I'm not going to ding them on inclement weather, and it's on us when our subcontractors don't show up. But to make slanderous comments, I'm going to underline the word slanderous, about a department, to say that they're fixing the books to make themselves look better is horrendous and beneath this commission. It's insanity. I apologize. You only ever hear from me when I'm asking you for money for a project or I have a complaint, and this is, I can't, being someone who only ran for local government and only one reason only, which is to get government out of the way and have them open up for business and the residents, and to have less taxes on the residents. That's why I ran. When I see the county commission making a drastic change, it's Newton's law, having a horrendous effect. Do you know that you can only get plumbing inspection once a week? Did you know that? Right? Am I right? Did you know that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Once a week. So before you pour the floor, you have to get plumbing inspection, right? So now the way you've set it up, it's a lottery. People are gonna be on the phone call. They can only do what, 12 a day?
They can take more than that if they choose to.
We can do about 21 a day.
21 a day, okay. So now it's a lottery. It's like calling into a radio station, the way you've set it up. We're on the phone, speed dialing, and if we don't get on the schedule 72 before, what happens? We have to wait for the lottery the next week, correct? So now we can't pour the floor. All you're doing is creating an environment where people are going to bypass the rules. And thank God, we have a contractor here who will never break the rules, wants to follow the rules, but you've got to make it easier for them to make this change. I would urge you at your 11 o'clock meeting to rescind that motion and bring it back to where it was. It was working. And being the group that pays the majority of the fees in Oceana County, you've got to listen to us. You've got to listen to the guy that pulls the majority of the permits in Oceana County to create growth in our community. And I would urge you in any department, if you make a change, go to the department heads, the people that work in the department, and get feedback from them. That's basic common sense business practices. And most of you here have owned businesses, you get it. So, but to make a change and spend community resources and dollars, because every time Tracy works on this, you've spent dollars. Every time the department has to make a change, you've spent my tax dollars. To make a change based on someone who had a comment in a coffee shop with no official complaint is outrageous. It's an outrageous way of spending my tax dollars. So please don't bring that. I don't want to sound like I'm berating the group, but I just want you to know how I'm beside myself on this. So if you could make that change, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
My name is Brooke. I'm the department head for the building department.
Brooke, come right up to the podium, and that way everybody at home can see your face.
Great. I would just like to say that we do not cover inspections for Newfield Auto or Grant. And so any comments about them being weeks out on inspections, that doesn't come from us.
Newfield Auto and Grant. Thank you.
Quick question. We didn't make a motion in the last meeting to modify anything to have to do with building inspections. My understanding was that that's the way the original contracts were written with the inspectors.
The
Am I speaking incorrectly on that, or?
That discussion is next on the agenda.
Okay.
And would there be any other public comment? Hearing none. Building department inspection scheduling discussion.
So would you like me to?
Please do, Tracy, yes.
So the contract reads, and I can give it to you verbatim because I made copies, so I would have them here. So the contractor shall also arrange for coverage of electrical inspections by a licensed electrical inspector in the event that the contractor is unavailable. And a request for inspections has been made, or there's a conflict and he is not able to conduct the inspections. Inspections must be completed within 72 hours, excluding weekends and holidays of the request.
So the original contract, my understanding is that, and I'm gonna say this, we didn't make a motion to change anything. This was merely pointed out by the chair at one point that the contract stipulates 72 hours from the call. I guess on the flip side.
Sorry.
No, on the flip side, I don't personally have a problem with making appointments if that helps the flow of the inspections. That doesn't specifically say they can't make appointments, and maybe I'm gonna call it a technical errors there is from the call in that original contract.
The confusion is, if we're talking 72 hours from the time that they call in, or 72 hours from the date that they request it. To me, I am reading this as the date of the request. However,
Right, and maybe that's what we should discuss about modifying and changing that to be more like a 72-hour period from when the inspection is asked to be done. So we didn't change anything. It's been that way. We made no motion to change what was existing other than going back to the contracts with each of the independent inspectors. And that's how it was written. So I think it's a word change that needs to be made. That's my opinion. Because I think scheduling, and I agree with Mr. Raffaelli and Scott, that saves a lot. It leaves the building department the authority to, you know, or gives them the option to look ahead and find out what the load is and everything else. So that's my opinion. I think maybe a modification of that.
Mr. Beggs?
I guess for the benefit of everybody in the room, could we hear about how this decision was made, who made it, when it was made, and just the process to come to this point? I don't know all those answers. I'd like to hear from a commissioner how we got here.
Joel and I did meet with Tracy to review that contract, and it was pointed out that the wording of such was that it was a 72-hour window, not knowing the ability Brooke might have to schedule out further and do such a thing. So Tracy did call Brooke's office and asked that these requests be made within the 72-hour window, not knowing that we would have this issue with plumbing only once a week, and we've had trouble coming up with a mechanical inspector. We've lost some, story died. There's been a flux in the office, and we're not a big county, so we can't really have 5-day-a-week inspections from our inspectors. But what I would like to do, for the benefit of everyone, if Brooke would be willing, to explain how you could schedule those appointments out for these contractors. And honestly, I feel that, we may have jumped the horse a little bit on that one, rereading the contract. If the thing was working well, I'm not certain why we were asked to get involved in that discussion, but Brooke, could you answer a couple questions?
Could I clarify
Yeah.
something before we head there? So is this a new policy?
No, it's just reiterating what was stated in the contract.
But it's not something that's ever been enforced or used before. So it sounds to me like a new policy. And so I'm interested to know how two members of this board got together and created policy. Because I've missed a couple meetings. I've checked the minutes. It was never on the agenda. It was never in the minutes. And the last I knew, this board makes policies, not and a majority of this board can make policy in an open meeting, but not in a private meeting behind closed doors. So that's my take on it. I'm very concerned about how this policy came to be, and I say it's a new policy because it's never been enforced before, to my knowledge, so we can talk about the details of the policy, but those are my thoughts about how the policy came to be, and I guess I'll leave my piece at that, and now we can talk about the ins and outs of the actual policy that's been implemented. I guess, am I wrong? Did I miss a meeting where this was discussed and we voted on this issue, or?
We didn't vote. No,
Okay.
We just were reiterating what was in the contracts, and I don't know if there was a complaint that sparked this, and I have no knowledge of any coffee shop talk.
So I mean, as far as enforcing the policy, the contract states within 72 hours of the request. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just a mechanic. But my opinion is, of the request means if Mr. Stovall comes in and requests an inspection on July 29th, that's the request, the requested appointment. Not the date 7/24 when he makes the phone call.
I'm sorry, Matt, quick question on that. The contract, does that say request or call?
Request.
It says request.
It says request. Now, I also want you to know that this only is in place for, your, mechanical and for, the electrical. Because those are two new contracts, and we had to do two new contracts for those people. The other two contracts do not have that information in there for building and plumbing.
So then if it's,
And to reiterate about the inspections for plumbing and mechanical 1 day a week, or plumbing 1 day a week, the reason for that is the gentleman that we actually, were contracting with for the plumbing and mechanical was not able to get his license for the other. So he's still working on that, so we're working to get that, so that we can put that in place, so he will be working 2 days a week, but we're still working on getting his license for that, so.
He
So-
does work 2 days a week when requested.
so if it doesn't say from the call, it says the
Request.
request date, then the way that the building department's been doing it at this point doesn't violate the contract at all.
Yes, sir.
May I approach?
Yes, sir.
So the 72 hours was put in there to, for state law. State law, the building code requires those guys to do it within 72 hours, right? It's an accountability tool. Now, I sent that contract to our attorneys. And our attorneys are coming back saying, it's from when the date it was booked, not from when you made a phone call. That interpretation was, and obviously you can see counsel elsewhere, but to be frank, that was my interpretation when I read it, is that the building department's been following that correctly. It's also my understanding that the group received counsel from the county administrator to that fact, and you guys decided to go sideways. And I'm with Mr. Beggs. Even if you believe it to be a policy, if it hasn't, the law will tell you, if it hasn't been followed, it requires it to be a new policy and brought to the group in an open meeting. That's fact. That's not fiction. That's fact. So I would, if there's no action, there's no official action that this group has made, then I would request that this group give the county administrator the authority to go back to the building department and say, hey, just go back to the way it was. Simple as that. We created something that doesn't need to be here. But I'm with Mr. Beggs. I still want to understand what brought this to the light. What did Mr. Walker say to you two? Let's just be open about it and stop being secretive. Why did Mr. Walker put you two on a mission? That's where it came from, right? So, why did Mr. Walker put you guys on a mission? And why, as county commissioners, you didn't push back requesting the official complaint? I understand if there's a complaint and someone's put it on paper, that we have to address something. Or if we know we're breaking the law in any such way, we have to address it. But it has to be documented, it has to be open. This lack of transparency, and when we go do this stuff, just has to stop. It's not fair. And then we start commentary about people. We had the same issue 6 months ago about commentary on a bid that the contractor said that they didn't get, right? Remember that one? Well, they got it, but there were slanderous comments made, walking the halls, and that's just not right. We're better than that. You guys are better than that. I know every single one of you very well. You're my neighbor. You're as close as related as I could get. Mr. Hardy, you're the king, and Mr. Beggs, I've known you for, I don't know how long, 7 years now, 8 years, so you've gotta be better, you've gotta be more transparent. I would ask this committee just to direct Mrs. Byard to make that change, to go back to the way it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would echo what Mr. Raffaelli said. I find it interesting, the double standard, in this. You know, there's not been a written or an official complaint about this issue, yet in order for Mr. Stovall to complain about this new policy, it had to be in writing, it had to be documented. It's just, it's a sad situation to see the double standard. This situation troubles me greatly.
Sure.
Last thing I have for you, our inspectors in Oceana County they're stand-up people. They bend over backwards to meet our timeframes and our deadlines, and you know, if I call them and need something, they do what they can. So I want to point that out, just so you know. I work in a lot of different counties and a lot of different townships, and our building department does a really good job here, and I think that needs to be heard too. We just need the ability to schedule in advance, and it should go by the date I request, not the day I call, right? I need the inspections out in front of us. We have a year-long schedule all drawn out. I know exactly when I need each house inspected. I mean, within reason, right? I mean, we're contractors, we fall behind schedule pretty easily, but I just need that ability. And I wanted to point out that Brooke's doing a great job. She's been a godsend in the building department. Give her the tools that she needs so that we can all move forward.
Thank you. Would there be any other discussion as far as the building department's concerned? Hearing none. Ms. Biard, material management replacement appointment.
We had a resignation for our one of our positions on the Materials Management Committee, so I'm asking the board to appoint Vaughn White to replace Jim Kleiner, and that term expires on 12/31/29.
Thank you. And also then, Ms. Biard, Construction Board of Appeals appointment.
We need to replace a position on the Construction Board of Appeals, and the building department has asked for Monty Bartley for the 6-year term to expire on 7/31/2030. I know they don't meet a lot, but we need to have those in place.
Very good, thank you.
Anybody, I don't recognize that name.
I don't either. Scott.
He's a local contractor.
Okay.
So, not many people want to sign up for it. I think they have to do earthwork. But it's basically just in place if somebody needs to, I don't know, hash out, you know, a call that an inspector makes, and then that board will hear both sides of the situation and go on how to handle that. I don't think we've had one since 2004. He said that he would put his name down.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Biard, an elevator discussion.
So our elevator here in the county building is on the fritz. They've been trying to rewire and see how they can get it running again, but they're having issues with that. There was a reset done, they couldn't get it to reset, so it's looking as though we need to replace the elevator. So I do have one bid, and I've asked Dave to contact a couple vendors to get a couple more bids for the board, but I wanted to make you aware that will be coming forward.
That sounds expensive.
Yeah. Roughly 50,000, so. Yeah.
Good. Department head reports. Will there be any department head reports? Having none, would there be any public comment? I'll take a minute though to say that I've done a little recon on the building department myself, and I've had nothing but praise for what Brooke is doing up there. So, you know, I think she'll be instrumental in helping us create the policy that works best for everyone. And I hope we have the software in place that just makes this a breeze.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting of the Properties, Environment, and Economic Development Committee. And then we will turn it over to Mr. Hardy.
Great, I'd like to call over the Finance Administration Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Beggs.
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. McCormick.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Ask for approval of the meeting minutes from July 10, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Beggs. Support. Support by Mr. McCormick. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Any changes to the agenda? Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Erickson, supported by Mr. McCormick. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Is there any public comment at this time for the Finance Administration Committee? Hearing none, we'll move on. The Honorable Judge Susan Sugowski, bond and statute presentation.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Judge Snagowski. Those of you who haven't met me. I just want to give you an overview of how this all works and what has happened in the legislature regarding bond, also in the legislature, and a change in the rules that the Michigan Supreme Court made to the Michigan court rules consistent with that change in the law. I did bring with me that I can give to Tracy a guide to Michigan's 2020 jail reforms. In 2020, there was comprehensive bipartisan legislation that changed a huge number of bond rules and how bond is set, how pretrial incarceration works, how we can sentence people on both misdemeanors and felonies, and it put a lot of limits on what the courts can do. In certain circumstances, it's taken away some court discretion, but it's also put some definite parameters on what we can and cannot do. So the jail reforms were the legislation that changed, and then there's the court rules, Rule 6.106 on pretrial release, which is what the judges follow. When we are making decisions on pretrial release, we have to follow this regulation, which is 6.106. There is a presumption in Michigan of no cash bond. That is the presumption for every case. The only time the law allows us to hold somebody without bond is on a homicide case or a violent felony. And on the violent felonies, there's other requirements also that we have to look at. There are some ways you can overcome these presumptions, but there's a list of things that judges have to go through to make that decision. They've also, in this legislation, they created a class of cases where officers have to give an appearance ticket. They can no longer arrest people on misdemeanor offenses. On a lot of misdemeanor offenses, they have to give appearance tickets. There is a way to overcome that in certain circumstances, but it has to be in the police report. So if the magistrate's reviewing a police report and making a bond determination, if this is one of those classes of cases where an appearance ticket is the preferred method under the law, there has to be an explanation in that police report as to why this person was arrested. And that explanation has to support a request for any sort of money bail. Otherwise, there is a presumption that the courts have to impose of giving people PR bonds. That's how the law works. And any misdemeanor other than an OWI, and even on OWI cases, appearance tickets can be given. But when we're looking at setting a bond, there are only two objectives that we're allowed to look at. One is safety of the public, and two is the likelihood that the person will appear for court. There are no other considerations that we can look at when setting bond. So we start with the presumption of no cash bond. If the offense is something that there is a danger to the public, most likely it's a violent crime, then that's where you look at setting cash bond. On homicide cases, it's not unusual to hold people without bond, but that you can only do for 90 days, and then you have to have another custody hearing. So there are many levels of these laws that we have to go through in making decisions on how to impose bond or not impose bond. But bottom line, there's a presumption in Michigan of no cash bond, and that was passed by the legislature. It's been reinforced by the Michigan Supreme Court, and that is the direction that we're getting, the judges are getting, and that's the law we have to follow. So any questions about that, that's what the law is. So that's what we follow. And unless there's something that the court is aware of at the time of arraignment, we're going to give PR bonds, because that's what the law tells us we have to do. If the prosecutor is aware of something, or the police are aware of something, they can give that information to the prosecutor. The prosecutor can file a motion to reconsider that bond decision. And that can be done in any case. They can ask for a custody hearing, but that would be the role of the prosecutor to make that decision. As judges, we can't talk to people about how we process these decisions on an individual case-by-case basis. I can talk to you about what the law is, but I can't come out to a public meeting and say, I made this decision for this reason, and this reason. That's not an appropriate thing for judges to do while a case is pending. There are the rules of judicial conduct that state very explicitly that judges shall make no public statements on pending cases, whether it's in my court. I can't make public statements about something in my court, something in Judge Middlebrook's court, Judge Fox's court, Judge Nellis's court, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals. I can't make public statements about those. So I can talk to you about the law. I can tell you about what the law is, how it works, how we're applying it, but I cannot talk to you about pending cases. So that's something that's important for people to understand. You know, we had people that come to the office and are like, I want to talk to the judge about this. It's like, well, the answer is no. The judge can't talk to you about that because there's these rules of judicial conduct that the judges have to follow. And so every decision we make, we're balancing all these competing factors. And we're making decisions based on what we know. And sometimes there's things that Sheriff's Department knows that we don't know. So it's important that they get that information to the prosecutor. Then the prosecutor makes a decision if it meets the statute, if it's significant enough to file a motion to amend bond or to change bond. Or a defense attorney will file a motion to reduce bond. And so that's that procedure that we go through. But I'm happy to share all these materials with you, answer any questions about how these statutes operate. But there's a lot of information on what they did, why they did it, and how they did it. But it all happened in 2020, was when this legislation passed, and it took effect. There were different laws that took effect at different times, mostly throughout the year of 2021. And so that's why you see a difference between the way things are handled now versus the way they were handled pre-2021. And things like having a list where you say that if you're charged with this offense, your bond is going to be this. The Supreme Court and legislature have come out and said you can't do that. That violates this statute. Every bond decision has to be individual to that specific offender and the charge that they're charged with and the status of whether they were on probation or have another pending charge. So those are all, I mean, there's a lot of different things we look at, which all of this documentation does explain that. I'm happy to talk to you about questions you have about how the law operates, but I think having the opportunity to read some of this information, and I'll give it to Tracy so she can make copies for it to anybody that's interested.
Judge, if I may, you mentioned, one of the deciding factors is whether the defendant will appear.
Yes.
Is there a criteria that you use to
Yeah,
determine?
the statute, there's an assumption that people will appear. So you have to have a history of failure to appear on a case that's within a certain amount of time. So if somebody has a failure to appear from 10 years ago, we can't really look at that because people's circumstances change. It's something that can be argued, and it might be one factor that we look at. But essentially, if somebody fails to appear, you have to wait for them to fail to appear. And then you have to give them 48 hours to voluntarily appear before I can issue a warrant. So after 48 hours after they don't appear, I can issue a warrant. If they turn themselves in on that warrant, I have to either arraign them within 2 hours, or they have to be given a PR bond with a new appearance date. So that's what these laws say, and that's what we are doing.
So the main factors are that if they haven't appeared before, that's one of the red check marks. But
Yes.
other than that, I mean,
I mean, we look at, you know, do they live in the area? Do they have sufficient ties to the area? Have they made statements indicating they're gonna run? Have they made statements threatening somebody else? That brings in that public safety aspect. The hardest one to deal with, and there's no way in the law to deal with it, are the drug cases. Because we know that people are dangerous to themselves when they're using drugs. And the prior law allowed us to hold people in jail for a period to essentially let them dry out. And the new laws don't allow us to do that. And so people are out using drugs, and then they don't appear for court, and then 48 hours after they don't appear, then I can issue a bench warrant, but it starts that whole process.
but even with the bench warrant, if they are arrested again, are they given a PR bond after that as well, or is that?
If they turn themselves in,
If they turn themselves in?
then yes. If
But
they
if they're
don't turn
rearrested?
themselves in, you still have to make an evaluation that the cash bond is set at an amount that they can afford. And so that's one of the parts of the analysis is we cannot set bonds that in essence penalize people for being poor. And that's the whole background to this, is that pre-trial detention should not be tied to somebody's ability to pay. It should be tied to whether they are going to try to thwart justice or whether they pose a danger to society. And so it's a balancing act, and it's something that has to be done quickly, and it's something that can always be reevaluated if there's a need to. And there's a process for that. So.
Yeah. Questions? Yes?
Sheriff, how many outstanding warrants do we have roughly right now? 800. 800 sounds like a lot of people trying to afford justice.
It's a big number for a small company.
The question is how old are those? I mean, does that go back
Oh,
40 years? I mean, we have some, I know, that are
Yeah,
40 years old.
we purged them after.
Yeah.
So we do have some old ones that are several years old.
Yeah, but there's a warrant, so if they get picked up on that warrant and they've been disappeared for 5 years, that weighs in favor of them not showing up. So that the law on if they turn themselves in, that's within a year of when the warrant was.
Oh. Okay.
So, that if it's more than a year since the warrant was issued, then there's not a presumption for a PR bond. So, I mean, there's many different layers that go into this analysis. It's not like it's a straight line decision. It's the presumption, apply the presumption, analyze what the charge is, analyze what the police report says about whether there's a list of factors that can get you outside that presumption. If they're in the police report, we can take that into consideration. If we don't have a police report, we can't. So we have to make the decision based on what the law says.
Anyone else? Thank you, Judge. Appreciate that. Ms. Biard, MDOT request to transfer airport grant funding.
So back in 2021, we had a grant for the airport through MDOT, in the amount of $57,673. Unfortunately, we've been having some issues with getting this easement project finished, and so we still have other grants that we're using toward that. However, MDOT is asking, because we are gonna lose that funding, they're asking that we sign a form stating that we're relinquishing those monies, because if we don't, they're gonna take them anyway, and allow them to convert those funds to Ionia County Airport. So I'm asking that the board allow me to sign this document so that they can move those funds, and also have our prosecutor sign.
But probably requires us to reach out for more funding again for the project once an opportunity comes up.
Correct. There are funds right now available for this project. We're continuing to work on that. And any other MDOT funds that come available, I will bring to board.
So like you said, if we don't sign, they're gonna take it anyway.
Yeah, they're gonna, won't allow us to have it.
Any questions? All right, continuing on, Ms. Baird, consideration to approve the child care fund budget for submission to the state.
So the child care fund budget is due September 30, or before September 30. So this was submitted to us from the court. They're asking us to approve this so they can submit that to the state of Michigan.
Questions or comments? And again, Ms. Baird, administrative review of the select claims for payments and administrative report.
Okay, the claims are provided for you. Are there any questions on any of those? If not, I did provide an administrator's report. We have really been working diligently on getting transfer station stuff going. It's been a whirlwind with all of that, but I have Starlink sitting in my office. I have the credit card machine in my office. I've gotten with IT. IT is getting ready to set up a time to go out and install the Starlink so we can get the credit card up and running. TrueStream's coming out Friday to meet with Joel and do a walkthrough to determine where Joel was gracious enough to do a drawing for them. However, he's gonna go and do a walkthrough to see where all of that has to go in. So.
What time did I say to do that?
I'll tell you in just a second. I have it on my calendar. So, and Jake is working out there right now. He's kind of been texting me once in a while, letting me know how things are going. He said they've been running people through on the scale. They do have print-offs because I got them the paper for the machine. And he said it's quite an eye-opener to look at people bringing shingles in and running them across the scale and how much we're charging compared to what it would be because of the weight. So, yeah, it's
Kind of knew it was going in that direction.
Yeah. So a lot going on out there right now, and I thank God that we've got Joel to help me out with, maneuvering a lot of that stuff, IT working on that, internet and some of the other things, but, and then the CSB windows, we are still waiting for those to come in. They're out like 2 to 3 weeks, and once we get those in, then those will be installed. That's all I have.
Anything else?
Very good, thank you.
We'll go to department head reports. Any department head reports? Sheriff?
Yeah, thank you. So, that made a statement. I'm sure my comments are probably what had stirred up the judges to come here. But in reference to that, I wanted to bring you some statistics from the jail. And from not just our jail, but local jails. So I've got the numbers for June for all the counties around us, which is it's really pretty interesting. So, on the front page of this packet, you see on the top line, total bookings for June for Oceana County were 113. So we booked in 113 in June. Muskegon County at 191. Nuevo County at 172. Mason County at 80. So there's quite a spread there. We're right in the middle of the pack with some considerably bigger counties. The front page, you'll see there's a breakdown of some bonds, and that was what some of my comments were about consistency. Now, and the judges answered some of those, but you'll see that just for possession of methamphetamine, which is a very, very common charge for us right now, you'll see there's 6 different spreads for the same charge. In the second column, aggravated assault, which is generally, that's a serious charge, that is a felony charge. And you see there's several different bonds for that as well, from $7,500 to cash surety, all the way down to a PR bond for a felony charge. And then you can see in the other counties, if you flip to the next staple mark, the next state, the next counties, all those statistics are noted for all the other counties. It is of considerable interest in Muskegon County, going through, and I went through every line on there. They don't issue, there's no PR bonds noted in Muskegon counties in any of their bonds.